right, welcome everyone to the Friday Tech Talk. Today we have a great guest. We've got Kevin Zaw. He is a Tech Academy graduate and he's worked in the tech industry for a long time. He has worked for Salesforce in the past and is currently working for Oracle. And today's talk is the role of a solution engineer. And we'll dive into the world of tech innovation. And Kevin will talk about transforming complex challenges into solutions with new technologies. And he will talk about how to master AI for current industry trends. All right, welcome, Kevin. Take it away.
Awesome, I appreciate it. So for a presentation, I put together a slide deck to kind of walk through what I do in my current role. I'm starting this presentation with the image that many of you are going to recognize if you're a fan of the Avengers. In this scene, Iron Man is confronting Loki, and Loki says, "I have an army." And Iron Man's response is, "We have a Hulk." Now, this scene perfectly portrays, in my perspective, the role of a solution engineer in a pre-sales process. The solution engineer essentially is the Hulk. They're a powerful resource that a sales team brings in when they want to be able to strengthen a deal and be able to convince a customer to move along a potential technology sales deal. Now, in this presentation, I'll be discussing, what is a solution engineer, sometimes called a sales engineer, and sharing my journey into becoming one. All right, so what is a solution engineer? Now, before diving into that, let's first discuss the role of the account executive. The account executive on the left-hand side over here is a sales representative that's focused on building relationships, managing deals with the customers, and handling potential opportunities. They essentially oversee the entire sales process. Now, account executives, again, also known as typical sales reps that you would expect, are really good at relationship building, but they may not always have the in-depth knowledge of the technology they're selling, especially when in different tech companies. Because it's really difficult, I think, to master technology and also be good at sales and manage a sales deal. So this process is normal. Some sales reps may have more technical expertise, but again, generally, their strength lies in their selling ability, not the technology. So this is where the solution engineer comes in. The solution engineer plays a crucial pre-sales role, which, while they're still part of the sales process, because it's still they're still in a sales role, they're focused more on explaining how the technology can meet the customer's business needs. So the solution engineer's primary goal is to ensure that the technology that they're selling can address the customer's challenges. They serve both as being a product expert in the technology they're selling and an industry expert, which helps bridge the gap between the technical aspect of the product and the customer requirements. All right, so this is my background. Now, I began my career as a Salesforce implementation consultant from 2019 and 2022, where I focused on implementing Salesforce solutions for customers. It was a great, first job out of college. When I decided to pivot into being a solution engineer, I had two challenges. The first was that I didn't have a lot of pre-sales background beforehand, right? Being an implementation consultant meant that when customers purchased Salesforce, I was helping implement the technology for the business, but I was not selling the business. I was not selling to the customer. So, I didn't have a lot of pre-sale experience previously. And I also needed to expand my technical knowledge to be able to be a solution engineer. Because think about pre-sales, when you're trying to sell technology, is that you not only have to understand the product you're selling, but you have to also understand the broader technology landscape, including technologies that connect with the product that you're selling and the competitors to your technology. And generally the holistic industry of the companies you're selling to, right? Not only are you thinking about technology that you're selling, but also what other technologies they probably care about, and also the business needs. So you want to have broader technological knowledge. So to build this foundation, I joined the Tech Academy, which provided me a comprehensive view of relevant technologies. And after graduating Tech Academy, I transitioned into a solution engineer role at Salesforce. And later in 2023, I moved to Oracle, where I currently work as a solution engineer. And it's been a rewarding and enjoyable experience ever since. A lot of people love the solution engineer role. I've rarely ever seen anyone go into the solution engineer role and ever pivot out of the industry because I love it so much. All right, so what does a solution engineer do? Now, some people think that the role of a solution engineer essentially is conduct demos, and it's more than that, but essentially one tool in the toolkit that solution engineers have. The way you want to think about this is that the ultimate goal of a solution engineer is to explain to companies how their problems can be solved by the technology that you're selling. That's the main goal. And again, doing demos is one part of that toolkit, but it's not the only way to be able to achieve a goal, right? But it is a key method. If a customer comes and says, we need to have a better way of keeping track of our sales that we have, the opportunities that we're working on, the contacts of the businesses that we're working with, then you want to listen to those challenges, and you can show them that instead of doing things the way they're currently doing now, you give them a demo of, for example, the CRM software that you're selling, right? So demos can be very impactful, but again, not the only way to be able to achieve this. Another way is answering RFPs. So RFP stands for a request for proposal. When companies are evaluating different types of software that they're looking for, they're typically going to write down some of the challenges that they have, right? So what are some of the challenges in keeping track of the ways that we're keeping track of our sales, the customers we're working with, the deals that we're on? Then they're going to send it off to multiple companies that they think can kind of fulfill their challenges with the technology they're selling. So, they're going to send it out to Salesforce, Oracle, Microsoft, and they're going to receive back answers to how the technology that those vendors are, like how the technology can solve their problems. And the solution engineer is going to be the one filling out those RFPs, answering those questions, saying, okay, based off the challenges that you sent us, this is how our technology can be able to solve those challenges. So essentially, the solution engineer responds to kind of questionnaires that customers send out to prove how our technology can solve their problems. Storytelling is also a very powerful tool as far as how solution engineers communicate that their technology can solve customer problems. I'll give you an example. So one of my previous managers told me a story about how he was selling commerce technology. So commerce, think about like commerce as being the ability to be able to create websites to sell products on, kind of like Shopify. So he was about to do a demo to a customer that was looking for a commerce technology, and it was about 2 weeks in. And before he gave the demo, he was talking to the customer about how very big brands were already using the commerce technology he was about to sell. I forgot the name of the company, but I don't think it matters. Think of those big brands being like a Macy's, for example, or Best Buy, or Adidas. And he was like, all these companies use our technology to be able to build their website to sell their products. And the customer thought about this and was like, why are we doing a demo? Like, if these big brands are using your technology and they're comfortable with it, they're happy with it, they're successful with it, then we don't need a demo. We trust you. We'll just purchase technology then. So I love this story because this demonstrates how impactful telling a story is when selling to a customer. You don't always have to do a demo to them and have them see the product that you're selling. If you can tell an impactful story, that can already be enough to, I think, convince someone that that the technology that you're selling is going to solve their challenges. So again, in essence, the role of a solution engineer, I would say, is not only a pre-sales role because it's a pre-sales role, but I like to think of it as being a role that helps companies solve problems. Solving customers' challenges is the most important aspect, and these are different types of tools that you can use to do that, whether that be through demos, answering RFPs, or through telling stories about how they're able to solve the problems. All right. So how to become a solution engineer? Now, I often get asked this question a lot, and I've summarized the path into 4 key areas. I think before I start into the slides, something I didn't prepare, which is important for you all to know, is that people can be solution engineers at different parts of their career stages. You can be a solution engineer, theoretically right out of college. There's a lot of programs out there that will prepare you to be a solution engineer, after you graduate and that being your first role. Or you can be a solution engineer if you're mid-career and you have enough experience in the technology industry, and you can form a path into being a solution engineer as kind of I don't want to say a pivot, but almost like a growth area from your previous experience. And I'll try to dive deeper into that a bit later, but I'll talk about some of the key skills over what I would say you need to have when it comes to being a solution engineer. And as far as questions go, I'll wait towards the end. I don't have too many more slides to go over. Now, the first skill that you want to have to become a solution engineer is, building your technical skills. Like, it is a technical role. So you want to understand the technology you're selling. You want to understand how it integrates to other technologies. So, for example, when I was at Salesforce, I had to understand what the CRM was. And oftentimes, customers would ask, okay, we have a ERP, and some of you may not be familiar with what an ERP or CRM stands for. It's not too important right now. But the point is that, customers, would ask about our CRM technology, and even though we didn't sell an ERP, it was important for us to be aware of what an ERP is, what the technology looks like, and speak to how those technology integrated together, even though, we don't sell that technology. So it's important to be a product expert, not only in things you sell, but also other technologies surrounding that. You also want to know your competitors as well. It's important that, you understand this is a sales role. So oftentimes a lot of questions you're going to ask is, hey, we want to learn about what your product you're specializing in. We also want to understand how it compares to other products out there in the market. So again, you want to be holistically aware of the market of the technology you're selling at. I think it also helps being a user of your technology. So I think Salesforce is always an easy example to give. If you are selling Salesforce solutions, then being a user of Salesforce is really helpful because, when you're talking with a customer about how they can get value over buying the technology, I think you saying that you use it yourself is hugely impactful. So, if you don't have a technical role previously, I think even being users is pretty strong in itself. And if you lack the foundation technology, I'm going to make a push to join the Tech Academy, which I highly recommend. It's a boot camp that essentially helps you be able to have a career pivot or start your career in technology, which is great. That's what I did. The second point over here is improving your communication skills. So effective communication is a critical part in pre-sales, whether it be through the presentations you have or the storytelling. So focus on how you convey ideas and the strategies when it comes to connecting your audience. So this third point over here is sales. Even though sales is kind of a communication skill, I do want to emphasize that this is a pre-sales role. So remember that, you want to build on skills like asking good questions to understand the challenges that the customer has. Because again, if you're going to talk about how the technology can solve their solutions, you first understand what the problems are, right? So how the technology can solve the problems. So you understand what the problems are. And you also want to avoid talking too much about the technology itself, and instead focusing on how the SLU can solve their problems. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but that's really important for me to emphasize. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people that transition from, I guess, having a more technical field, maybe the developer, maybe they implemented technology for a company, right? When they transition into a solution role, oftentimes they talk too much like a developer, not understanding that, again, they are in a sales role. So it's important for you to remember that you want to focus on the value more than the technical capabilities. But that's not something to ignore either. I don't want to discount the importance of being a good technical communicator. Now, this last point over here is just understanding industry knowledge. And I would say understanding industry knowledge, helps when it comes to being more relatable to the people you're going to speak with, right? The potential customers you're going to have. So if you can understand their challenges, demonstrate that you understand what goes on in their business, what they care about in their own roles, it's going to make you a much better communicator. I'll give you an example. So a lot of my coworkers sell supply chain management technology, and a lot of them worked in roles where they were in operations for supply chain management. And in those type of cases, maybe they don't have a strong tech background, but because they understand what's important when it comes to what people care about in supply chain management, which is be more efficient, be able to have an easy time reviewing how inventory is moving. Because they understand those values, they're an excellent communicator with the customers they work with. So, don't discount how important it is to understand the industries that you're working with. And, when you focus on these key 4 areas, you'll become a really successful solution engineer. All right. So I'm gonna take questions in about 10 minutes or so. Before I do that, I want to tell a story. Now, this story is a story that a manager told me when I was first starting to become a solution engineer. And this image ties back to the story. I couldn't find an image that was similar to this, so I just AI generated this. So my manager, when I first became a solution engineer, attended a tech conference. And that's where he met a diverse group of people, specifically in the technology industry. But he told me about how he met this one jazz musician over there. And he was surprised. It was very odd for him to see a jazz musician at a tech conference. And when he was talking with them, that person really had no connection to the tech industry at all. They're really just day-to-day was a jazz musician. And when they asked them, why did you attend this tech conference? This seems like an unusual place for them to be in. They said that from their perspective as a jazz musician, from their words, they said that they felt that jazz as genre didn't have a lot of innovation, at least for a long time. And they attended a tech conference because they wanted to gain inspiration outside the usual environments they were in, the music environment, to be able to gain new ideas and be able to spark creativity in the music industry. And I love that story. Like, I think the key takeaway for me is that, I guess relating back in the tech field, oftentimes when we think about tech careers, we believe that the best way to be able to advance our technology experience is through certifications or, more technical experience. But from my perspective, I think that, you don't limit your growth just by taking the traditional paths. There's so much other ways to be able to gain more experience in quote unquote unexpected places. So these are some examples that I use when trying to, quote unquote level up my career that I think was hugely impactful. That didn't involve, just being more technical. So the top left over here is why I joined Toastmasters. If any of you are familiar with Toastmasters, it's like a club for when you want to improve your presentation skills. This is like it's from my understanding, Toastmasters is all around the country, and they're essentially where people volunteer to practice their presentation skills and have other people provide feedback. I love it. I think it's great. A lot of you should sign up. Northwestern Kellogg provided a class in sales that I took. Again, previously I didn't have sales experience. So this is kind of my way of being able to gain that by taking a class. On the top over here is when I was part of a podcast called the E-commerce Edge, hosted by Jason Greenfield. And this was great because I was able to meet a thought leader within the industry I was part of, and network with them, gain some insight, eventually became a mentor, which is really great. So, listening, I guess, the podcast is super helpful to be able to understand industry knowledge. This image over here is where I took a class in acting. And, candidly, my goal is not to be an actor, but really to use the skills that actors use to be more coachable and improve my presentation skills. This over here is on the top right is where I attended a manufacturing conference, and this wasn't part of work. Like, I just asked my boss if I was able to attend this manufacturing conference, and it was great because, I think oftentimes when you're at any sort of tech company, you can be hyper-focused on the technology that you're selling, but your technology, when used by a company, doesn't exist in the vacuum. So understanding how your technology fits within the greater ecosystem of other technologies that connect with yours is hugely valuable, right? Like, I was selling quoting solutions to the manufacturing industry. So kind of seeing how supply chain management solutions or robotics or ERPs, some of these terms may not be familiar with you, but essentially all these technologies coming together one place and kind of seeing how they all interconnect was hugely valuable for me. And the last thing I'll mention is this certification over here, where I was trying to learn accounting. I took this class to be able to help with accounting. I have a few other certifications around this, but my point in mentioning all of this is that there's countless ways to be able to grow and learn outside of just building more technical expertise. So I think it's hugely valuable to be able to explore diverse learning opportunities, and that can have significant impact when it comes to building your long-term career growth. All right, so I know I spoke a lot. I'm happy to go back and dive deeper more into some of the topics that I discussed previously, but I want to save the rest of this time to go over any questions that any of you have. And
Right.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, great presentation, Kevin. And anyone is welcome to ask questions in the chat, and I'll pass it on to Kevin. Or you can ask a verbal question. You can raise your hand, and I'll unmute your mic. And we'll start the questions now. So Marquita has a question. Are there any other titles for a solution engineer in job searches?
Yeah, so from my understanding, so it would be solution engineer, sales engineer, or sometimes called solution consultant. I think that the titles are pretty interchangeable, but if you look up any of those terms, the job descriptions seem pretty similar to each other. There are some times where I see the title solution engineer actually mean not only a pre-sales role, but a post-sales role. And I think that's pretty different from what I was describing. And usually those are for maybe startups or pretty small companies where you have to wear multiple hats. But typically in a large tech company, the solution engineer, again, is primarily focused on pre-sales.
All right, good stuff. And if you want to raise your hand, there's the little raise hand button at the bottom. You can do that. But I think it's great, Kevin. It shows how learning technology opens up, and coding opens up a lot of doors for a lot of different careers that you can get into. So you can go in as a software engineer. You can go in as getting into the sales part of technology. And the more knowledge you have with sales, it's really going to help your career. And I think that was some really good points you made. We have had students that have come to the school because they've been in tech sales, and they wanted to be able to, be able to present better for their sales. And they wanted to, a lot of times they would have to bring in a software engineer when they were doing sales so they could really talk about the technical side. And after they came to our school, they could go into the sales side and be able to do the sale and the technical side of the sales themselves. So that really helped them. What kind of made you decide to get into technology? What was your degree that you got after college, or during when you graduated college?
So I graduated in media studies, and this was a major where I was studying Photoshop, graphic design, video editing, and classes in general media related stuff. And what I really enjoyed about the classes that I was taking was that I was able to learn hard skills that would be able to benefit some of the projects I was working on outside of the classes. So for example, when I was in college, I ran for student president, and opposed to having to hire someone else to be able to create the flyers I was working on, I created my own campaign material, right? I created my own flyers, I created my own logos. From media studies, learned how to use Facebook to be able to advertise my campaign. And, I loved being able to learn hard skills, because from that experience, I was able to understand the value of being able to translate those hard skills into actual value for the organization I was working with, right? Which is my example was my campaign. But relating back to, I think, my experience at Salesforce, Oracle, what I loved about working over there is that when our technology is successful, then companies are going to be successful, right? When our technology is strong, when companies are using it holistically, they're going to get a lot more revenue. They're going to decrease their operation costs. And I think being able to have a role that ties so directly to other companies' success, it just makes you feel, like your role is so valuable and what you're doing is so valuable. So I love it. I think it's great.
No, that's good stuff. And yeah, social media and being able to use just metadata and that kind of thing for social media, for websites, is really important. Can you talk a little bit about, or a little more detail about, what the difference is between a solution engineer with pre-sales and sales?
Yeah, so I would say that when I say pre-sales and sales, they're basically kind of the same thing. Oftentimes we say pre-sales and post-sales because we're talking about, like, I guess the pre-sales will be someone that's trying to sell the technology. The post-sales will be someone that essentially maintains the relationship with the customer. But again, I would also differentiate the role between a solution engineer versus the main salesperson to be that solution engineer expected to be the technical expert, while the main salesperson is expected to maintain the relationship with the customer, negotiate pricing, and be the main point person for communication. So yeah, the solution engineer is expected to be that technical expert that supports the sales team.
Got it. And what made you choose the Tech Academy?
There's a few reasons why I chose the Tech Academy. I think the first reason was that, number one, it was affordable. Compared to a lot of other boot camps out there, I think Tech Academy is a lot better when it comes to my like what I was looking to spend. The second thing was that it was very accessible, right? The fact it's remote, I think, makes it so that if you have a role that expects you to travel, then you're able to work on projects your own time, and you don't have to, be concerned about if you need to take an extra time off, which is really good. I think the last thing is being able to work so in-depthly with instructors. When there are any sort of use cases where I'm stuck, part of learning technology is that you have self-study, but if you have any sort of roadblocks, having the instructors be able to support you so in-depthly, I think is hugely valuable. So I loved it. Like, that was great. I also think the curriculum is also, like, really good too. Like, the curriculum really starts from the very basics of, what is a computer? Like, how is a computer built? And I think a lot of times when you come to the tech industry, you're like, okay, like, I'm just gonna learn a software, right? But really, like, starting from the bottom there is hugely important. Like, that's not something to ignore at all, because when you do advance more into your career and you start to think about technology holistically, starting from the bottom is really going to be a great place to build your foundation.
Yeah, and it does really build a great foundation. It was one of the reasons I chose the Tech Academy myself. Was it seemed to have the more computer science than any other boot camp that I was looking into, and that's really helped with the foundation of the basics of computers, going into binary and some computer science stuff that other boot camps don't have. So that was one of the reasons I chose it. Now, what do you, with technology changing so fast the way it is, what do you do to stay up with the current technologies and the new technologies that are coming out?
So I want to give a better answer in this, but I do think this is really helpful. So something I do on LinkedIn is I make sure that the feed that I have is very curated to the industry I'm in, or the technology, or the career paths that I'm really interested in. So typically, when I find that people are creating their LinkedIn's and they're trying to connect with people, they'll like connect with their college friends, their high school friends, anyone they can find, right? I think a lot of people treat LinkedIn as if it's like Instagram, where the more followers you get, like the more of a currency it is, right? But LinkedIn is not the same thing as Instagram or other social media platforms. There's a lot of value in making sure that the newsfeed that you have is going to provide value to you. So what I mean by that is that when you add people, try to add people in the career paths and follow the companies that you feel will be most valuable for you to keep updated with. So again, opposed to me, adding my friends who became doctors or lawyers, it's kind of nice kind of seeing them, post or share like medical related material or law related material. I like the fact that when I go on LinkedIn, the only posts I'm seeing are about updates in the tech field or updates in the companies that partner with mine or competitors that compete against my technology or job postings that could connect with me, right? It's so important that you make sure that your LinkedIn feed is curated to the posts that are going to provide direct value to you, and you're not muddling up with things that may not be as relevant.
No, those are some really good points. And yeah, you bring up the LinkedIn, and I actually do use it for that, but I hadn't really thought of that. So that is definitely good advice there. And Gab, do you have any questions? All right, so I don't know if Gab hears me or not.
Yeah, I do. So I've actually been handling a lot of students who do want to be a solutions engineer, and they have been going through LinkedIn, like really going through LinkedIn with a fine tooth comb, trying to search positions for it. But they've been these postings has details like entry. These are for entry levels, but they want like 3 years of experience or 5 years of experience, which is kind of weird. But so, what are your tips on the graduates who wants to like be solution engineers, but they don't have the necessary experience uh, to uh, to apply to those posts with that are looking for people with more experience?
Yes. So I think there's a lot of steps you can take to be able to get in this career path, and some of these steps don't require you to actually get a job to get experience. I think a lot of times there's kind of a catch-22 where the only way you can get experience if you get hired. The only way you get hired if you get experience. So one way is joining boot camps, right? Some of them are more technical, like Tech Academy, which I definitely recommend. I think it's going to be a build foundation for your career. There's other boot camps that are primarily focused on becoming a solution engineer, which I think is hugely valuable. They will, I think, be more focused on the soft skill side of becoming a solution engineer. So they're primarily focused on being in sales. And I think any sort of sales class is going to be helpful. Again, this is a sales role, even though it's a very technical role. So any sort of experience you can get that speaks to your interest in being good in sales creates a great story for that eventual career path. If you can get a sales role, I think that can be a good transition. There's a lot of people who become solution engineer after having been a sales role or use a sales role that they have to create that story, become a solution engineer. I would also say, I guess my last point to that question would be, try to also see what your background is if you're making a career pivot. So if you're in education, for example, and your role was to be a teacher, what are some of the technology that you use as a teacher? Because if you're selling a LMS system, so LMS stands for like learning management system. So think of like Brightspace or Blackboard, and you're a solution, you're trying to convince another company to like invest in that technology. I think you being a teacher using that is hugely valuable, right? That's experience within itself that can transfer over. I would say it's probably more impactful than a developer that doesn't have experience using that technology. Or if you're a customer service person and you're selling software that helps companies manage their customer service cases, then being able to say, hey, I was a customer service agent, I had all these problems when it came to managing the amount of customer complaints that I had, and I needed a very easy way to be able to manage all those, right? Like, I think you'll be a lot more impactful when you can talk about that experience. Some arguably more impactful than a developer speaking about that. So, reflect back on your own background and then see how you can tie that story into to that new career path that you want to be in.
So are there any like other certifications that our graduates can like apply to or get that will supplement the certificate that we give them from the Tech Academy in order to help them land this job?
That's a good question. I think it really depends on the technology company and technology that you're applying to. So, as a solution, you're kind of expected to be an expert, not only in the industry, but the specific technology that you're supposed to be aligned to, right? So ideally, before you become a solution engineer, ideally, which it's not always possible, you want to be an expert on the technology and say, oh, I learned your technology before I even got an interview. Now I would love to be able to sell it, right? Like, that's a great story to have. But if that's not possible, then I think getting a certification on a competing technology is also really valuable because, if you're in a pre-sales role, being able to say, I'm an expert on the competitors of your technologies is hugely valuable because then you can speak the differences. It's kind of like, I think, going to Apple, applying for a sales job over there and saying, oh, I actually sold Microsoft computers before. I understand the limitations of the Microsoft computer, and I love to be able to sell your Apple computers because I can talk about the differences when customers ask about them.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, that's actually a great workaround to that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, great points, Kevin. And does anyone else have any questions? Like I said, you can raise your hand or you can leave it in the chat. And real important question here, Kevin, are you still pursuing some part-time acting?
No. I haven't. So the classes I was taking ended, I think, a year ago around this time, but I loved it. It was once a month. It was with this retired acting coach that lived in Indiana. He had people come into his home because he still wanted company. He lived alone, and it was great. Being able to work with other people that really want to become actors. One thing the acting coach told me that really resonated with me. This is not like tech advice, but it can be translated as such. He said, when you're auditioning and someone gives you direction, don't focus on being really good in what in how you're trying to be perceived. Focus on just listening to the director and overdoing it, because it's really easy to kind of pull you back. But you want to convince someone that when you are given direction, that you know how to do it, right? Because and that essentially shows that you're coachable. If someone tells you to start crying, then overdo your crying, because it's easier for them to tell you, hey, okay, you can minimize it down a little bit, then question if you're capable of essentially crying.
Can you show us that crying? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, well, let us know if you got a Netflix show coming out. Let us know.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. And with AI, just where do you see the future of pre-sales, but just technology in general with AI coming out the way it is now? How do you see kind of the future of where your job's going to go and technology in general?
I think I have a lot of ways to be able to answer this. I think that companies in general, when it comes to AI, are having multiple approaches on how they're looking in AI. So some companies want to be the first of their market to be innovator in AI, right? Like they want to have all these different presentations on what AI can do for them. Again, be that innovator. Some other companies kind of have a wait and see type approach when it comes to AI. So they want to, see what other competitors are doing, maybe wait to see how it is in the market before they start investing in it. So I see a lot of companies trend in different types of areas when it comes to that. But I think what I find that companies really care about in the way the tech industry is going is companies being a lot more mindful of their own data. So, coming from big enterprise companies, Salesforce and Oracle, one of the things that we try to communicate is that you want all your data to be interconnected, and you want to make sure that you have a strategy for the data so that it's all accessible, it's easy to read, and once you have that, then you want to later take insights and actions on the data. So I think a lot of companies are preparing for their AI strategy at different types of stages. But I think the first step right now is for them to make sure all their data is in a manageable and strategic place.
Yeah, it is. Everything is data driven now, so that is definitely a good point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and last chance for questions. Anybody have any questions for Kevin? All right, Kevin. Well, really good talk. I'm glad you came back so quickly. Really good to hear your story and hear how the Tech Academy was for you and what you did after, with your new role with Oracle and going forward. So great job with that. You're one of our success stories, and it's always good to hear that. Gab, do you have information about next week's talk?
Yes, we do have another Tech Talk next week. So it's the same time, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific. And and we have another one again the week after that, again, on Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, same time. And I will also take this opportunity to promote our new program. It's the Accelerator program. And the good news is that all of the graduates and students of the Tech Academy has access to 3-month free access to the accelerator. So you have 100 videos, more than 100 videos actually, of lessons about anything tech related, and also 100 other resources. And every Tuesday we have live classes with Eric. And you can also suggest topics that you would like Eric to discuss in those Tuesday classes. So we'll send you the link on to the accelerator program through your email, as long as we have it on our file, which we probably do. And if not, you can always email us. You can contact us through Meetup, and we'll send you the link to that.
All right, cool stuff. And yeah, the accelerator is really good for ongoing learning and more advanced learning. So we do highly recommend it. All right, Kevin. Well, thank you very much for the talk. It was really good, and thanks for coming out. We would definitely like to have you in the future again. And good luck with your future endeavors and your future with Oracle.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Kevin. Thanks all for coming out. And yeah, we will have the talk next week at the same time, same channel. So do come back. Have a great weekend, all. We'll see you later.